During the Second World War, on the 19th of August 1942, the Allies launched a major raid on the French coastal port of Dieppe. Operation Jubilee was the first Canadian Army engagement in the European theatre of the war, designed to test the Allies' ability to launch amphibious assaults against Adolf Hitler's fortress Europe. The raid was a disaster. More than 900 Canadian soldiers were killed, and thousands more were wounded and taken prisoner. Despite the bloodshed, the raid provided valuable lessons for subsequent Allied amphibious assaults on Africa, Italy and Normandy. By the summer of 1942, Canada had been at war with Germany for nearly 3 years, but its army had yet to see any action, except during the failed defense of Hong Kong. Thousands of fresh Canadian soldiers waiting in Britain were eager to get involved in the fight against Germany. The British and Americans were fighting in North Africa, but the Soviet Union was pressuring the Allies to invade Nazi-occupied Western Europe, to ease the burden on the Red Army struggling against Germany's invasion of Russia. The Allies weren't yet ready for a full-scale assault on mainland Europe. Winston Churchill, the British Prime Minister, wanted to mount commando-style raids against occupied France as a way of harassing the enemy. Churchill and Royal Air Force commanders also believed that such raids, supported by Allied aircraft, would draw the Luftwaffe, the German Air Force, into battle, thus wearing down the Luftwaffe and drawing its planes and pilots away from the Russian front. Louis Mountbatten, a senior British naval officer and relative of the royal family, had been appointed to advise British commanders on the relatively new military tactic of using coordinated naval, air and land forces in combined operations attacks. Mountbatten proposed a raid on the town of Dieppe, to probe German defences on the coast of France, and to test the Allies' ability to mount an amphibious assault, using combined forces, against Adolf Hitler's fortress Europe. The plan was to take Dieppe, hold a perimeter around the town, destroy the harbour facilities, and then withdraw by sea. Lieutenant General Harry Crerar and other senior Canadian Army commanders endorsed the plan, and offered up troops for the raid. Not only were Canadian soldiers stationed in Britain itching for a taste of combat, but domestic opinion at home was eager to see the Canadian Army finally involved in the European war. The 2nd Canadian Infantry Division, led by Major General J. H. Roberts, formed the bulk of the infantry assault force. As Roberts told his troops before the raid, "Don't worry, men, it'll be a piece of cake," a comment that would haunt him for years afterwards. In the early morning hours of the 19th of August, the Allies arrived off the French coast on a naval task force of 237 ships and landing craft. Although the shoreline of Dieppe itself is relatively flat, the town is book-ended on both sides by high, chalky white cliffs rising directly from the beaches. From these cliffs, heavy German guns and machine guns situated inside concrete bunkers guarded the port and its surrounding beaches. The Canadians assaulted Dieppe at 4 designated sections. At Blue Beach, below the village of Pais, 1.6 kilometers east of Dieppe, troops of the Royal Regiment of Canada and the Black Watch Royal Highland Regiment of Canada arrived late in their bid to take out enemy artillery and machine. From the start the enemy pinned down the Canadians and shot them up until the raid was over. On the other side of the town at Green Beach, by the village of Pouville, 4 kilometers west of Dieppe, the South Saskatchewan Regiment arrived on time and in the dark. Unfortunately, the part of the unit tasked with reaching a radar station and anti-aircraft guns to the east of Pouville landed on the west side of the River Sea, which ran through the village. These troops had to cross the river on Pouville's only bridge, which the Germans ferociously defended. Ultimately, both the South Saskatchewans and Cameron Highlanders of Canada were pushed back. At red and white beaches directly in front of the main port, the Essex, Scottish and Royal Hamilton Light Infantry Lee regiments landed without their armoured support. The 14th Canadian Army Tank Regiment, the Calgary Tanks, which was late. The enemy, from higher ground and in the town's beachfront casino, hit these units hard. Some infantry managed to get off the beach and enter Dieppe, but the Canadians also failed to achieve their objectives here.